Okay, this is the ETL exercise. We are going now to load master data and transaction data into the info cube that we created in the data modeling exercise. So we'll start by logging into SAP. I think the business intelligence, or I think yours is Belfast. And you double click on the data warehousing workbench. And if you remember last time, we started by creating, defining the key figures, which are revenue and sales quantity. And we said these key figures measure the performance of an organization. We also defined a couple of characteristics, material and product category. And then we defined, so these are my info objects. On top of these info objects, we created an info cube. And that was the GBI reporting. And we said, okay, we'll create material. And we had material attribute and material text. Some of the things that we have defined as info objects were coming right from the UCC library, and some we created ourselves. So the continuation of this exercise is now to start loading data. We defined the attributes, we defined characteristics and key figures, and now it's time to load the data. So the very first step of loading the data is creating a data flow. So we'll go and click on data flow on the left hand side. So you'll go under TSU and again locate your number. Mine is TSU 044. And I'll right click and I will say create data flow. The MU12, as we said, is our info source. So you always have, and then the 044 is your number. Yours should be whatever last three numbers are. So now the data flow technical name would be MU12 DFM, data flow model. D and then your number 044, and the description is MU12 044 data flow master data. That will open a window on your right to add the info object material. So the first thing, we will drag an info object and add it to the maintenance area. And you will right click on the top object to use existing object and choose use existing object, because it's already existing inside of through the library, so you don't have to create it again. So now you want to search for a particular material. You will write MU12 star, which is a wild card, and then your number. So mine is 044. And you can see here is your material, so you will choose that material. So now you have in the data flow master data, you see that material has been added and that it has two things underneath it, material as an attribute and material text. So go ahead and save that. Okay, the information for the material is inside of a comma separated field file, a CSV, and it has like a material description, material number, the product category, the division, a lot of information about material, and we want to look up that file before we actually load it into the system. So the file name is GBI 20 product V01. Here it is, and you can open the file with Notepad. You can see the fields in there are material description, material number, product category, division, internal price, sales price, color, and components. And you have a set of material in there: deluxe touring bike, professional touring bike, men's off-road bike, and so on. You can see that the fields are separated with a semicolon. And if you look at the price, you see that they use the decimal separator, which is the dot as 1,000, whereas the comma is used for the decimal. So for this price, for example, it is 4,000.00. This is a 1,500.00. So the comma is used as a decimal, and the decimal point is used as 1,000 separate. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and I will continue in another video. Okay, now we are going to load the file. So first thing they ask you is to click on data sources and to choose a source system, and it is a file, a PC file. And then to show the empty folder, since we haven't loaded anything before that, ours will not show unless we click on the show empty folders. And ours is under the UABI curriculum, TSU, and again we'll choose, each one of you will choose the right data source, which for me is TSU 044. Now we'll right click and say create data source. So your data source is MU12 DSM data source master data 044. It is a PC file, and we want to load master data attributes. Under the general information, the description, The medium description would be MU12, your number 044, material master data. Okay, so that's what you are adding on the General Information tab. Next, you will go under the Extraction tab. And the option that we are selecting in here is that we want to a simple load that bypass the persistent staging area. So we don't want to load the data into the PSA. Remember, the PSA is an area where you resolve inconsistencies. You make sure that you do not have any missing data, that there is no redundancy between the multiple sources and so on. Since we are loading from an internal file that's coming from SAP, then we can bypass the persistent staging area. So the first thing that you notice is that data only via full upload, meaning that once we load the first time, then subsequent times we don't have to reload the whole data. We'll just load any changes that happen from the previous load. And we want to allow direct access. Now, we are going to load text from a local workstation, and we will locate the file. So in your case, I mean, like, you can save the file to the desktop and then locate it right away. So we selected the file, and we want to say that there's only one row that's a header, so we want to ignore the first row. We want to make sure that the format is a comma separated. And then the 1000, now see here, the 1000 separator is the dot, actually it is a semicolon, the data separator is a semicolon, and the escape sign is the double quotes. And the number format is a direct input. And that the 1000 separator is the decimal point, and that the decimal separator is the comma. Now we'll go to the Proposal tab. And we want to see if the data will load, how the data looks like. We'll assume that the number of records is 10,000. And we say, click on Load Example Data. And now you see you have a material description, material number, product category, division, internal price, sales price, color and component, and then a list of the actual values. And again, they list for you the fields, so you can see that I have material description, a material number, a product category, a division, an internal price, a sales price, a color, and a component. So at this point we want to save Now we'll go to the fields. So we want to accept all of them. So we'll go to the Preview tab and click on Read Preview Data. And it will ask you to activate, so go ahead and activate. And now you see the actual records that were in the text files now loaded into the system. So if you see that, then everything is fine. So now we need to go to the data flow, and under my number, the one that we have saved before, is there. We want to drag that. First we are going to open it. And then you are going to drag the data source and drop it to the data maintenance area. Okay, I realized that I did not change or allow change for the data flow. See here at the top it says display data flow. We should click on that to edit the data flow, and now we can add a data source. And now we will click on use existing object, and again we'll search for hours. Now we want to draw an arrow from the material master to the material attribute. And we are going to double click on that link in order to start the transformation. And material is an info object. It has attributes. It's called MU12 material 044. And now it will be transformed using a data source. And that the source of the information is a PC file. So I will accept that. And now remember, material was defined by the UCC. So now you are going to map the attributes or the fields from the file to the fields defined inside of the info queue. So your material So your material number is that first attribute. Trying to make sure that you are seeing the whole screen. So product category is that second attribute, division, last one, component, color, sales price, the internal price is your transfer price. Okay, now we're going to activate and save. And you should get a message saying transformation activated successfully. And now we're going to save. And we'll go back. So now when you click on the data flows, under your data flow you should see info object, and now when we click on the data sources, Okay, now we are going, I think you are not here, so let me go back to where we stopped. So we created that link between the material master data and the attributes, and we need like to double click it, and it tells you to accept that, and then under the extraction make sure that the extraction mode is full, since it is the first time, and we want to bypass the PSA, so we are going to check do not extract from PSA, use direct access to data source, since we are loading from an internal source, so there is no need really to do any kind of modification. And as you can see, the file location is right here where you are going to load the data from. Now we want to activate So everything is green, so everything went fine. Okay, so everything is fine. We're going to the data flow. So we're clicking on execute. You can see that the data has been loaded, that description is empty. So let's go back. Make sure that you see actually. So it should look like this. The description is empty because we haven't loaded it, and that's what we are going to do next. Now we are going to add a link between the master data and the material text. So we'll start by clicking material text, and then we have, every time, make sure that you are in edit. And you double click the line afterwards, and you accept. We want now to map.
Hello there, Mother.
So you see material number is already there. And material description is linked to medium description. Now for the language, we have to define the language, so we have to define a rule. So we'll double click on that. And we want the language to be English. And the rule is not going to change, so we'll make it constant. And the constant value is English. And you will click on transfer values. So now you see the language is English. So we're going to activate. And we'll go back to the data flow. Remember always to change. So now we will go to the data flow again, and we will draw another line from the master data to the material text. That's the yellow one. Double click on it. Before you double click, make sure that you change to edit. Accept. And they want you to use the full extraction mode. And do not extract from the PSA, and that the file is there. So now we are going to activate. And we will execute. So everything is fine. Now Now we need to go back and go to your data flow again. And now for the material, maintain master data and execute. And now you can see the description that was uploaded in the last step. So with that, we are done with the first part of the exercise of the ETL exercise, uploading the data. I will record another one for the uploading the transaction.